Hello and welcome to the Old Garage number 58. I'm Wild Bill, and yes, I know this shirt is a little more plain than usual, but it's 4 degrees outside with the wind chill. Actually, it's negative 4 degrees outside. With the wind chill, it's about negative 20, so I'm wearing some flannel today. But we've got some questions, we've got silliness, we've got a shout out, so let's get it going on. Now, the first question came from the special Passing on the Passion. And this came from James MacArthur. And the question is, Bill, what do you think are the ways in which people can pass on their passion for the older vintage things in life? Well, I think number one is to continue to have a passion for them yourself. You know, if you have them around you, if you talk about them, if you're talking cars, you work on them, bring that passion forward. We've already seen, not only in the Bob Liebesberger, but just a few days ago, another video passed in which, you know, that whole father to son and the whole family, you know, involvement in cars or in whatever hobby for that matter. But you just need to be involved in them and have your passion and love it. Because if you have a passion for whatever vintage thing it is, and someone wants to learn it, you know, when the student's ready, the teacher will be there. And so be that teacher ready to teach. Just as, you know, I've taught a lot of my car stuff and other skills that I have to younger folks, you know, because if they want to learn, they will seek you out, and you just have to be willing to teach. You know, that's the role that older folks like myself and older, you know, that's the role we have. And so just be willing to teach and do it with passion. And you will share that passion, and it will continue to grow, at least in my opinion. Let me know what y'all think. So, next question I have, actually I have two of them. This came from the Lee Chadwick episode. First question is from Liz J. Hi, Ginger Lily Longtoes. And she has, in the photo of the Chadwick Type 9, what are the two sticks attached to the right side of the vehicle above the running board? What is the function of the little handles near the top of the sticks? Well, this car is a right-hand drive car, and, you know, again, made in 1905, but nonetheless, at that point in time, there was no convention in the United States, whether it was left-hand drive, right-hand drive, center drive, rear-seated drive, whatever. So it's right-hand drive, and those are the handbrake and your gear select. So you have the handles that are on the top of the levers, which are basically your ratchet stops, so that you can move them, you know, put them in a position and let go of the handle, and it will stay in that position. That's what the little lever is. You know, if you're braking and you pull that lever, now you can move it freely, and then when you release that lever, it will remain in its position. And the other one, the one that's on the outboard side, is well, actually, the inboard side one is the gear select, and the outboard side one is the brake. But they both, you know, as far as how you operate them, it's done the same way. When you grab the handle with that lever, it makes you able to move it. This particular car had a sequential shift, and so it was all the way forward was reverse, first, second, third, fourth. And then you could move it by holding that handle. And then, of course, the brake, you had to hold the handle to allow yourself to use the brake, and if you left the brake depressed and released the handle, it would stay there and was essentially a parking brake at that point. Now, of course, the car only had rear wheel brakes on it, but that's what they were, and you're going to find that sort of configuration, be it on the right side or left side, you know, depending on where the driver's seat position is, very common all the way through to World War I on many cars. So, but that's what they are. Okay, and the next question, this last question I had on this one, again from Lee Chadwick, and it's from James MacArthur. He asked, have you ever explained how horsepower was calculated for all these vintage cars? I did a while ago, but it's been a minute, so let's go ahead and go over it again. Horsepower as a term was created by James Watt, and the way he calculated it initially, and this is, you know, late 18th century, was he hooked 550 pounds worth of weight to a pulley, and via a rope, which in turn was attached to a horse. And the horse would, and he'd go, yeah, and the horse would go and start pulling this 550 pounds. Now, the rate of 1 horsepower was the horse's ability, first of all, how much energy did it take for that horse to lift that 550 pounds 1 foot in height in 1 second. That was the base of a foot-pound. And then, over a minute, how much energy would that take? Well, that would be 60 of them, or 330,000 pounds. So, and that was the basis of a horsepower. And it's calculated based on foot-pounds. At that time, you have the French in 1799 had their revolution, and they changed their measurements into metric. Not exactly the same metric that we have today, but it was pretty close. But nonetheless, when the French made the same calculations using the metric system, the numbers were a bit different. So a vehicle that had 10 horsepower in the British method, using James Watt's calculations through imperial measurement, in France would only have about 7 using their measurements, even though the power was the same. But the French measurement of horsepower, if they said it was a 20 horsepower vehicle, it was probably closer to 25 or 28. And this would be the case for quite some time. And then once you get in after World War I in the 1920s, you start getting into hot rodding. Now you have people starting to kind of gamble and play with the very term horsepower and how you're actually gathering it. Is it straight off the crank? Is it what's being provided actually to the wheels once it's gone through the transmission and the rest of the drive chain? Because there's obviously going to be loss of power, from the engine to the wheels. And so there's a lot of, a lot of people aren't happy with just how horsepower is measured. So you really have to look at what was it, how did they actually calculate it? Is it from the engine? Is it from the wheels and measuring it that way? Which of course there are machines that you can do that, and those have been around, since, prior to World War I. Your ability to test a engine's horsepower. So, but that is the basic calculation. It's 550 pounds being lifted by 1 minute times 300, which gives you the 30, times 60, which gives you the base horsepower, which is then manipulated from there. But that's a horsepower. Okay, and so those are the questions. Now, for my silliness, as I mentioned earlier, it is stupid cold right now. We've had nothing but blizzards. This is I've been living in Ohio now almost 10 years. I've never seen a winter like this yet. So called a buddy of mine who owns a 1903 Curved Dash Oldsmobile, and I said, hey, let's go take it for a ride in this. And he said, no way, I'm not driving that car in this. Now, he keeps it in a garage that is, temperature controlled and everything else. And it's not the only car he's got. But so I asked him, I says, why wouldn't you drive your 1903 Curved Dash Oldsmobile in a blizzard when it's below freezing? And so here are, not mine, but Howie's, top 5 reasons not to drive a Curved Dash Oldsmobile in a blizzard. And number 5 is starting it. Now, he can start his because it's in his garage that is always kept at about 62 degrees. But if you have the thing and it's not climate controlled and it's minus 4 degrees outside, and it is, and you try to start that thing, good luck. It has a drip oil system. It's probably already seized, even though it's not a seized engine, but try cranking it when everything is frozen. Good luck. And if you do manage to prime it and get it going, you're probably going to hurt the engine because it's just, the oil just can't move where it needs to be quickly enough. It's too cold. So that was reason number 1 he gave. The second reason he gave was just the tires are so narrow. When you've got 6 inches, a foot and a half of snow on the road, and under that there's probably some ice and other stuff, you're just not going to be able to get any traction. The car won't get through it. You'll bog down and be stuck. You'll have to carry the car home. Well, it's Curved Dash Oldsmobile. I do know some men that probably could do that, but nonetheless, you just are not going to get the traction it's going to take to get the thing going. The third thing that he said was the fact that it has tiller steering, and it's hard enough to steer in the snow with a steering wheel, but try doing it with a tiller. If you start to fishtail or lose control, you will not regain it. You can't. You're not going to be able to do it. The tiller steering does not have the responsiveness of wheel steering. So that's another reason. And the second to last reason he gave me kind of makes sense. Frozen boogers. Because, I mean, the things can go about 20 miles an hour, and if you're driving that car at that temperature and there's no windshield, there's no top, there's just you and your face against that wind, then everything inside your nose will become crunchy. And that can be uncomfortable. And so he said, no, it'll freeze up, don't do it. And then the number one reason, and this surprised me, he said, the biggest reason why I wouldn't do it, despite everything else I've said, is because nobody's watching. And I hadn't thought of about that, but the fact is if you own a car like that and you drive it, you want it to be seen. That's the whole point, so that other people can enjoy it. And nobody's out looking at you drive a car in a blizzard. They're all at home either in their electric blankets, in front of a fire, or doing something just to keep warm. They are not going to a parade. They are not, I mean, heck, they're not even going to do Trump's inauguration, outside because of the weather. And that's a spectacle, isn't it? So that's a reason why not to do it. So I thought those were 5 good reasons. Thank you, Howie, for helping me out with that. And so, quick shout out here. And this is a cool channel, Curious History. And it's all over the place with just little historical tidbits. And I like historical tidbits. Do you like historical tidbits? I hope so. Because if you do, go check out Curious History. Like and subscribe. You'll get it. And that's what we have today for the Old Garage, and I will see you next time. Peace.